Our next game is gonna be the game between Anastasia Bodnaruk and Lela Javahishvili. They both are my friends, and I remember that I was very impressed by this game at the time when it was played. So let's start. And we have the Sicilian defense, but as the opening is not the topic of our course, we'll go fast through this. And we are going to start from this moment. So the last move was Queen G5. And White now has an option how to react, whether he should exchange the queens or make another move with the queen. So if White plays Queen takes G5, Bishop G5, then most likely G3. And let's say Bishop E7, Bishop takes E7, Knight takes E7 or King D7, long castle, and this endgame can be evaluated as slightly better for White because White is better developed, and also Black's bishop on C8 might become a problem. And also Black's squares are kind of weak here for Black. So this is one option that we see after Queen G5. Another option is to play Queen F3, but then Black has the move Knight CE5, forcing White to give up his bishop, and we don't want to do so without any concrete advantages for White. So here White also has another option, and the strongest, which happened in the game, and it's Queen H3. But making this move, you should see what you are going to do after Knight F4, because Black obviously didn't play Queen G5, so that after Queen H3 he goes back because White is threatening G3. So Black wanted to play Knight F4 here, and that's what happened in the game. And now after Bishop F4, Queen takes F4, I'd suggest you stop the video and try to figure out what was the White's idea behind this Queen H3 move. And we will continue. So obviously White did not want just to play short castle, because then Black plays Bishop B7, and having two bishops, it's not so clear why White gave up the bishop on E3, and Black might be even better here. So after Queen F4, White has a very nice idea starting from G3. Queen F3 is the obvious move. And now after Queen F3, White has to decide what to do next. And in the game happened Queen H4, which is the strongest decision. Another option to provide here chaos would be E5. After Queen takes H1, King E2, Black has to play Queen takes A1. Black also has an option to play Knight D4, but it will transpose to the game, so we will come later to this. So Queen takes A1, Knight takes A1, Bishop E7, and we still should continue this line because it's very important that after White's move Queen H5, protecting the pawn on E5, Black has an option to play D6, and after ED, Bishop D6. Because if Black does not play D6, White has time to play Knight E4, and it becomes very strong, the knight on E4 and the pawn on E5 with the queen, and then White would be much better. But thanks to the time, Black has an option to play D6 here. ED6, Bishop D6, and it's hard to evaluate this position because Black has two rooks for the queen, and although Black is not yet developed, but White has no concrete threat, so most likely Black will manage to finish his development soon. So after Queen F3, queen h4 is the strongest move. Queen takes h1, king e2. And now in the game, knight d4 check happened, and we will come to it later. Let's discuss first what would happen after queen to g2. After queen to g2, white has a very strong move e5, creating the threat of bishop b4, so that if black takes the pawn, white just plays bishop b4, knight g6, queen h5. So after e5, the only move is d5, e takes d6, and I just want to point out that during the game, you don't have to see what's going on next. It's just enough that you see that you have threats with bishop b4. And even speaking about material, you only sacrifice an exchange and you have a very strong pawn on d6. So all this should give you the feeling that you will have enough compensation here. But here it's not even only compensation, but just winning position for white. So as we are not now playing, but analyzing, we'll continue this variation. So after ed, black has to play f5 against bishop b4. And now white has two options how to continue creating threats against this queen on g2. One of it is knight d2 with the idea to play knight f3 and rook g1. And another one which I like because it underlines how chaotic this position is. So it's king to e3. And the idea is that after castle, white has bishop f1, queen g1, bishop b2. The whole point is that after queen g2, there is bishop f3 and queen is trapped. So after bishop b2, f4 is the only move not to lose the queen. And then white takes the pawn, queen g6, and bishop d3. And black can still continue with queen h6, queen takes h6, gh6, knight a4. And we can now evaluate this position that white is winning because of the very strong pawn on d6 and that knights are coming to b6, c5. So it's obvious that white is winning here. So after king e2, knight d4 is the move, the strongest move that actually you could see during the game and decide that you should not go to this line because you saw that black plays knight d4 and wins the rook. But that's the point that you should not stop here your calculation, but continue a little bit further. And after knight d4, knight takes d4, queen takes a1. White has a very strong move, the only move that you should see before playing g3, but it would be even better if you'd see it before playing queen h3, although it's a difficult task. But if you saw it, then kudos to you. If you didn't manage to find it, you have now a couple of minutes to do so. So try to find the move that creates new threats. And we'll continue. So in the game, e5 was played. It's a very strong move that white now wants to play knight e4 and knight d6. And so I will just show you some lines, what could have happened. In the game, black played d5, protecting against knight e4. So after e5, other options could be queen takes b2. I think that this is the most logical option that we should start our calculation with. So queen takes b2, knight e4. If now black takes the knight, then knight d6, queen takes d6, ed, f6, g4. And it's absolutely different from the previous line we saw where white had queen for two rooks, because here black's rooks are on the 8th rank and it's very hard for him to continue developing, and white is threatening g5, opening the lines around black's king. So white is winning here. After knight e4, if black plays queen b6, then white can continue with knight d6, king f8, and the most forcing line would be queen h5, king e7, queen g5, king f8, and nice tactics as usual in such positions, knight f5, e takes f5, knight f5, and after g6 it's mate in 2 by queen e7, king g8, queen e8 mate. So that could have happened after queen takes b2. Another option that we will analyze is h6 here. So after h6, as was planned, knight e4 would be played. And now if black plays castle, then white has a typical attacking idea in such structures. So it's knight f6 move. And if king h8, then queen e4, g6, queen h4, and black cannot defend his king with queen c1 because then there is f4, king g7, knight g4, rook h8, and now the shortest way to win is queen f6, king g8, bishop takes g6, fg, and queen e7 with knight f6 next. After h6, knight e4, black can continue with d5. And it's a very tricky move because if now you take on ed, then already black has castle, and knight f6 is no longer a winning move here. So that's why you should be very careful. And after d5, white wins by knight d6, king d7, knight takes f7. Now if black plays rook f8, then white has a very nice maneuver by his knight. Knight from d4 comes to c5. So knight b3, queen b2, knight c5, king c7, queen e7, winning. But also after knight takes f7, black can be smarter and play rook e8, protecting the e7 square. And now knight b3, queen b2, and you can find the only winning move, which I really like here. Just pause the video and try to find it. And it also shows that in such chaotic positions, you should always remember to look in the at the whole board, not only one side, only the center, or you should remember that every 64 squares is in play. So here there is a nice move, queen b4, creating a threat of queen d6 mate and knight c5. And black is lost. After e5, also I wanted to show you two lines starting with b5 or b6. And I'd like you to see what is the difference between these lines. So b5 is simpler. After b5, white just plays knight e4, d5, and now knight c6, creating a threat of queen e7 or queen d8 mate, king d7, queen e7, king c6, queen d6, king b7, knight c5, king a7, queen c7 with mate. So now the question is, what changes if black plays b6, knight e4 and d5? And the point is that here white cannot play knight c6 because now this whole idea is not working just because of this very small difference that the pawn is on b6 instead of b5, but it's covering the c5 square, which was very important. That's why here after knight c6, black just plays king d7, queen e7, and king c6. That's why after d5 here white should take on d6 with ed6. Now f6 is not an option because knight takes f6, g f6, and queen f6. That's why black can try to protect the e7 square with rook, playing rook a7. And now also a very instructive moment that white improves his pieces with 10 pieces. So knight c6, creating a threat of queen d8 mate, also rook is hanging. So rook d7 and now knight e5. rook b7, and now comes queen g5. And we attack the very important g7 pawn. And if black plays rook g8, then obviously knight f6. And if f6, then white has queen h5. After king d8, there is knight f7. And after king f8, there is knight g6. So these lines show us how big potential is in white's position. And that black actually has defensive resources, but it's not enough here. And let's go back to the game. In the game happened d5 here, also protecting against knight e4. So after d5, ed, f6. And now again, I want you to stop the video, to pause it, and try to figure out what would be your decision during the game. Because in this game, white made a mistake. And the right decision was really beautiful geometry. So pause the video. And so in the game, bishop h7 was played with the threat bishop to g6. But the fastest way to win would be queen h5 check. Now, of course, g6 is not possible because bishop takes g6. So after queen h5, other options are king f8 or king d8. But then the most important thing is that white penetrates with his queen to the 7th rank with decisive threats. So king f8, queen c5. And now if black plays king e8, then queen c7, bishop d7, knight takes e6. White is completely winning. If black plays bishop d7, then the same, queen c7, and after king e8, knight e6. So after king g8, again queen c7, and if f5, then knight takes f5, ef, bishop c4. If black plays king d8, then white is winning by queen f7, bishop d7, and here there is a very nice move, although not the only one, but the move that I really like is that white includes another piece to the attack, which is knight a4. And white is winning because queen is coming to e7 with knight to b6, and if bishop takes a4, then queen e7, king c8, queen c7 mate. But in the game, white did manage to find it. It was not so simple. So white just took the pawn on h7 with the threat bishop g6. Bishop h7, king f8 now happened. Knight e4, bringing another piece closer to the king. Threatening knight takes f6. And now in the game, e5 happened. The best option here, practical option here for black would be to remember that when you are defending in such positions against a very strong attack, but you have extra material, there is always an option that you should consider to give up some of it and have some time to bring your pieces back. So in this case, rook h7 would be the best practical choice for black. Queen takes h7 and queen takes b2, attacking the knight on d4. And now white is still the side that is trying to win here and can try to do so with two options. The first one is to play knight takes f6, gf, and d7. Now black has to take on d7 because after queen takes d4, there is queen h8, king e7, queen a8. So after d7, there is bishop takes d7, queen d7, king g8, queen e6. And what can we say about this position? White has a knight and two pawns for the rook, which is enough if we are speaking about material. Also, black's king is more exposed than white's, and the most important is that we should remember that the combination of queen with the knight attacking the king is a very strong one. So white should have here enough resources to have a big advantage here. And as I said here, after queen b2, white had another option to develop the initiative, and actually this move I like because again it shows how chaotic this position is. So it's to play king d3, protecting the knight on d4 and keeping all the threats. So if black plays, let's say, b5, white can continue with d7, and after bishop takes d7, queen h8. And if after king d3 black plays e5, then white has queen h8, king f7, and knight b3, also a very nice move that that takes away the possibility to bring black's queen back to protect himself. So after knight b3, d7 is coming, and black is hopeless here. But still, rook h7 was the best practical option here, because in the game e5 was played, and now you can figure out yourself what's the winning move here. So in the game happened knight take f6. And the point is that white is threatening after, let's say, e d4, white is winning by knight d7 check. Bishop takes d7, queen e7 mate. After knight f6, black cannot, after knight f6, yes, black cannot take on f6 because then queen takes f6, king e8 and queen e7 mate. So the game continued with rook h7, knight h7 check, king g8, knight g5, queen a2, queen h7, king f8, and now again a very nice moment that white would like to play queen h8, but here queen comes back to g8. That's why white should think how not to give this opportunity to black and plays b3. Also knight to b3 was possible. So b3 is the winning move, and the game just continued with bishop g4, f3, king e8, queen g8, king d7, queen f7, king d6, knight e4 mate. What a beautiful mate and a beautiful attack. So in this game, white had a very tough decision to make, because honestly speaking, when you play queen h3 here instead of queen takes g5, already here you should see all this sequence of moves ending with e5. And I understand that it's very difficult, but if you manage to calculate so far and you see that you have you have a lot of threats with knight e4, and you also notice the thing that you have now 4 pieces in the play with a very strong pawn on e5, whilst black's pieces are on the 8th rank, and queen is on a1, which is not helping, and you see that king is very exposed because of the weak dark squares here, d6, and this can all give you the feeling that there might be something here, and then you can just try to calculate a couple of lines here further, and you see that black has problem solving all the threats, and then you can go here. But obviously it's a tough decision. That's why we are just analyzing these games, that maybe one day you would be able to make such a brilliant decision your own.